Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of talk radio. Political opinions have been a staple of radio since the early 1920s. Talk radio as a listener participation format has existed since at least the mid-1940s. WMCA New York's Barry Gray was bored with playing music and put a telephone receiver up to his microphone to talk with band leader Woody Herman. This was soon followed by listener call-ins. In 1948, disc jockey Alan Courtney began a call-in program on WGBS Miami. The Alan Courtney Open Phone Forum was a conservative and anti-communist political forum with coverage area over the southeast United States and Cuba. In the 50s, Joe Pine, John Neville, and Gene Shepard were among the first to explore the medium. In recent years, talk radio has gained popularity with many new formats flourishing, including all sports in 1986 with the birth of WFAN New York. The subject matter for these formats are different, but the structure has remained the same for all these years. You might say talk radio is a 20th century format, until now that is. It's 2014. And radio pioneer and innovator Alex Bennett introduces the Citizen Panel on GABNet, the first revolutionary idea in the format since its inception. The Citizen Panel allows for an open discussion to take place between the host and many listeners all at the same time. Listeners claim that it's addictive, producing stimulating discussions on any topic from politics to movies and entertainment. It's not liberal or conservative. It's open to all opinions and ideas. Log on to GABNet.net to listen and find out how you can participate. Listen to the programs on GABNet and take a step into 21st century talk radio. Evolution is defined as any process of formation or growth, development. The evolution of a radio program right before your ears. Welcome into The Exchange. It's Rob Alfano, and it's a Wednesday night, a special night, and we'll talk about that in just a few moments. You're going to give us a call on Skype in a little while.
I'm Jim Browning. You're listening to The Exchange. Well, our long national nightmare just may be over. It seems that we are ready to say goodbye to reality television.
Good evening and hello, everybody. Welcome to The Exchange, your safe haven for the free and open exchange of ideas and opinions here on the Great American Broadcast Network every Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 10 Eastern, 6:30 to 7 Western. I'm your host and broker, Damian Chaplin. If you'd like to join the conversation tonight, go ahead and give us a call on Skype. I'm opening the lines right now.
The Exchange, one program, ever evolving. Be a part of evolution. Tuesday through Friday at 9:30 p.m., Damian Chaplin moves you in new directions. Call GABNet Live on Skype at 347-352-0079. The Exchange, the evolution. Tuesday through Friday at 9:30 Eastern, only on GABNet. Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett and this is the Ramble. We go from now until midnight Eastern Daylight Time, and in about 25 minutes from now we'll have our citizens panel, if I'm indeed with the ability to speak English. And but in the meantime, let's talk to our old friend that we talk to once a week. Ladies and gentlemen, out to the other coast of the United States of America, out to San Francisco, California, where he still has a rent-controlled apartment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Larry.
Yes, rent-controlled apartment. I've got a 2000 Camry with 382,000 miles on it. So I'm a powerful man.
You're living large.
This car won't die. It's unbelievable.
Now, how old is it?
The 2000. It's got 382,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It runs great. So.
Yeah. Doesn't cost you a lot of money to keep it going?
No. So that's been good. It's very reliable.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds good.
Now you have no car, I assume, in New York.
I don't have a car. No, I haven't driven in. God, I
can't imagine what it'd be like to live without a car. I like to drive.
Well, but if you lived in New York, you wouldn't want one. You know, it's too much trouble. First of all, you got the cost of the car. All right? That's to begin with. Then the monthly payments on that said car. All right? So then you have to add to that the insurance. And then in New York, you have to add to that the parking, which will be at least $800 a month.
800?
800, yeah, sure. That's about what it would cost to get a monthly parking spot in a garage. And then you never use it. You know, you maybe use it on weekends. So the question is, you know, how's this saving you any kind of money? It's just better if you don't do anything at all, you know, if you don't have a car. And whenever you need a car, you rent one.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But therein lies the other rub. You rent it, and that's fine. But, like, for instance, let's say I want to rent it for 3 days. All right? So I make a deal where I rent it for 3 days. I think it was 4 days. Came out to $750. It's a lot of money.
A little steep, yeah.
I said, what happens if I rent it for a week? Oh, it's only $320. What? Yeah, if you rent it for a week, it costs less than if you rent it for 4 days.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of sense does that make? You know, they used to do that with plane flights. If you did one way, it was more expensive than if you did round trip.
Right.
So, like,
right,
when I first came back to California and I took a plane, I got a round trip ticket. I figured if the day ever came I needed the other part of that ticket, I could use it. You know, nobody knows whether you're going to be successful in San Francisco or not. So, you know, that was my my whole thing. So anyway, you know, whatever. So how are you doing, Bubs?
Doing well. I was thinking about you this week because this is out here, or Nevada, the Burning Man has started. So I remember you used to go up there. Yeah,
what's interesting about Burning Man is there's a smoky haze over Burning Man from the fires in California.
Right, yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, and you're going to complain? I mean, it is Burning Man after all. Just consider it part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go out there, but in the very beginning, when there were about 10,000 people there instead of, like, what, 50 or 60,000 that go out there?
Crazy now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why go somewhere to get, let's say, get out of the city where everybody from the city is going? Right?
Yeah.
You want to do that kind of roughing it? Just get a backpack and go out into the wilderness, you know? That'll take care of it, right?
Yeah, I never was quite sure what the purpose of the whole event was.
Well, it was kind of an artistic event in the beginning, especially. And people would do their thing, you know, I remember back in the first year that I was there, which was about the third year that they held it in the Black Rock Desert. We went in year 3, 4, and 5, I think. We said we keep doing it till somebody got killed. And that year, 3 people got killed.
That was it.
That was it for us. That was our deal. We'll keep going till somebody gets killed, because it was bound to happen. You know, the bigger the crowds got, and
anytime you get a big crowd, someone's going to die.
Also, you're out in the middle of this desert where you really don't have much of anything. You know, you could start at one end of that desert at night and drive 40 miles to the other end of the desert. It's one of the largest deserts in America. I think it may be the largest, the Black Rock Desert. You could drive to the other end. As you start going, you could hit it at 100 miles an hour and then turn your lights off so you don't see anything, and it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Because until you get to the 40-mile mark, there's nothing to hit. It's just flat, right? So if you take that into consideration, you take the darkness of night, you take the fact that people pitch tents out in the middle of the desert, and then people start driving around in the middle of the night, well, somebody was bound to run over one of those tents.
There you go.
And then some other guy, I think, got killed just in his car, a car accident on the playa. So, but when I first went there, like year 3, they had one feature that we just thought was inspired. It was a drive-by shooting range where you would get in your car, and if you had a gun, you would drive by, and they had a bunch of like stuffed animals.
That sounds like fun.
And you could shoot from your car, shooting at the
Yeah.
animals. And of course, it was completely safe because there was nobody else around for miles. So, but they stopped doing that because they felt, the liability,
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy who started it, I'm trying to remember his name now, died last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Burning Man isn't, to me it isn't.
I'm assuming he was cremated.
I'm assuming.
They should have saved him and done it this year. Just cremated him there. He could have been the real Burning Man.
They should. You know something? He should have wanted that in his will.
Yeah,
or
you would
something.
think.
That throw me on the Burning Man pyre. But that wouldn't be bad. Either that or at least just scatter my ashes on the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'd probably be a better thing than for people to go to Burning Man to see a corpse in flames. That would kind of put a pall over the event, don't you think?
Well, it'd be different.
Oh my God, yeah, what a pall, yeah. And then I went there with let's see here. Brad Carvey was with me, Dana's brother.
Yeah.
And who else was the guy who was the host of Mystery Theater 2000 was with us that year, and it was we had a nice time, but we didn't go back. And then what happened was about a year later, Paul, my best friend, who I went up there with, and we rented these trailers with our group from Play Incorporated. He died at 39.
I remember that, yeah.
The only guy who was ever willing to invest in my dreams, right?
He croaked.
And he croaks.
How old was he?
He was 39.
Holy shit.
Heart attack. Boom, gone.
Jesus.
I get a call one day. I got something to tell you, Alex. What? Paul's dead. What? Is this another Beatles thing here that's going on? No, Paul Montgomery is dead. And I went, oh, jeez almighty. And he was like my best friend, This is a guy who on weekends I would drive up to Sacramento and then we'd get in his Ferrari because he loved sports cars. All people who were involved in like the tech business love fucking sports cars. Mm-hmm. So they have Ferraris, they have whatever. So we would go in his car and we would drive up to Reno, and then we would hit a couple of tables, and he would gamble where he wanted to gamble, which he liked the what was it? He liked. It wasn't the slot machines. It was the what do you call it?
Video poker.
Video poker. Yeah. He would sit there playing video poker, and then we'd say, "Well, we better turn around and go back because it's getting late." And then we'd turn around and go back. One of those night trips to Reno. Either that, or we would head over to the Moonlight Bunny Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I never did anything at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch. Dennis Hoff likes to say, Alex Bennett's been here the most times without fucking anybody in the history of the Bunny Ranch. Because the hookers now you have a joke about hookers, but I'm sure you feel
I
it.
have several, I think.
Yeah, if nothing, just say your catchphrase.
Oh, which one was that?
Hookers.
Hooker. Hookers.
Yeah. Like middle of the night, you'd be in Berkeley at a massage parlor, knocking on the door, yelling, "What?
Are you open? I have cash."
Now that's always been a basic part of your act, but would you really want to have sex with a hooker, or have you?
Well, I did when I was younger. Yeah, at the Bunny Ranch, in fact. But it was just the appeal of it is not going through the whole charade of going out with someone,
not having to buy them dinner,
buying them dinner, and spending time and trying to be charming, and it's just you're in, you're out.
Is my breath okay? I don't give a shit. This is a hooker. Yeah, right. But wait a minute, you went to the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, but was that when Dennis Hoff owned it?
That was before he had. It was like in the late 70s, yeah.
Oh, and it was just another truck
like,
stop, yeah.
Oh my God, you could get sex with one then 1979 for $25.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course, that's like $35 in today's money. 25 bucks.
I base inflation on the price of hookers.
Well, here's what Paul did. Paul would go, he'd get himself a hooker, he'd go into the room, and then he'd sit there and talk with her for an hour, and that was it. He didn't have sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked Dennis, is this common? And he said, most people who hire a hooker go in for the company, not for the sex.
Wow.
And that most of the women report back, hey, well, I didn't have sex with him, but he paid the full thing. So anyway, it's pretty. That's what he liked to do. I hope his ex-wife isn't listening, or his widow isn't listening. But I think she knew that too.
Well, I can't believe he was 39. Jesus.
And meanwhile, I would sit out near the bar talking with Dennis or talking with the hookers, and I didn't do anything. And he always said to me, "Hey, Alex, any woman in the house, half price, because we go 50-50 with them, and you have to pay their 50%." And I said, "Well, nah, I'll pass." And it wasn't that I was cheap; I was going to get a discount. It's just that it never appealed to me, the idea of a hooker.
Yeah, it wasn't actually that much fun. But
I did it once. I was in Houston, and a bunch of the guys were going to a whorehouse. So I had never done this, so I figured, what the hell, I'll do it. Hey, I'm married. It's the only way I can cheat. Nobody's going to tell on me, So I went to this whorehouse, and I just found it so unsexy. I mean, I like the pursuit. I like the seduction. I like having to splash breath spray in my mouth. I mean, I like the whole process of seduction, and there's no process of seduction there. So.
No, but I think it's crazy that prostitution, it should be legalized and regulated like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the only reason it should be regulated is just for health reasons.
Health reasons, yeah.
Yeah, Otherwise, I'd say let it run rampant.
Health reasons and safety for the... I can't imagine a street hooker sounds like the most dangerous life in the world. Huh?
Yeah, one of the proudest moments of my life was Dennis Hoff owned the second whorehouse down the street. Okay, so he took me down there, and we sat at the bar, and on the wall there was a picture of me.
Really?
Yeah, because I was a friend of his. There's a picture of me, I think with Dennis maybe, and I just went, wow, I finally made it. I never wanted my picture in a delicatessen or a dry cleaner's.
But a whorehouse.
But a whorehouse in Nevada, that's making it. That's something I can be proud of.
You can go out with a smile now.
Yeah. But I just never found it something I wanted to do. And I told him that. I said, I just don't find it sexy. I don't find it, you know, I did once. I went to, remember what was that one they had near Reno that was the famous one?
That was the Mustang Ranch.
The Mustang Ranch. Now, who did I go with? I went with somebody. It might have been Paul again, to the Mustang Ranch. And so I figured, as long as I'm here, I may as well experience it. All right? Because I had never experienced, I'd experienced, you know, having sex with a hooker when I was younger, but I never experienced sex at one of these whorehouses. All right? So I went, what the hell? So I said, I don't know. How do you order up one person? Is there such a thing? I want to order one person, please. And they said, okay, well, let's see here. Here are a bunch of women. You look okay. You don't look that weathered, you know. And I said, okay, we're going. So we went into the room, and she did whatever she was going to do. And I think it just amounted mainly to a blowjob. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't do any sex because you have to put the condom on, and I don't like condoms particularly. So who does? There isn't a guy in the world who likes condoms. Mm-hmm. Did you ever meet a guy who said, the thing I like best about sex is putting on the condom? Boy, that's really hot. That makes me hot when I think about it. Anyway, so so I did it, and I went out and I went, okay, well, that was, I don't know, $100 wasted.
Right.
So I shot my load. I can do that on my own, you know. So it just never appealed to me. That did you find it sexy when you did it?
No, it was very empty. Like you said, it was something to do, and then you.
And you do feel remorse after you're through, because while you're going through the process, you're horny, and so you're willing to pay the money. But after you have an orgasm, you go, "What did I just do?" You know, because all the desire has been drained from you, and you're not going, "Boy, was that a wonderful experience." No, you're just going, "Well, yeah, I'm going to feel better for a couple hours, and I'm going to be horny again." You know, what do I do? Come back and spend another, $100 or $200, or I think it's something like $300-400 now.
I think it's really expensive now, and I think Hoff, I think he just won. He ran for some office up there, and he won.
Oh, did he win?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like county.
Right, it was some local thing, but he won. So.
Yeah, but he's the only thing in the county, so he just had to go vote for himself, and he won.
He did over 90% in the hooker vote.
Yeah, right. If some of them had become residents as a result of being at the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, he was a shoo-in. But he also came out for Trump during the election, and I haven't talked to him since then, and haven't had a desire to, because he voted for Trump. Because that does separate us as people,
It is separating everyone, yeah. Maybe he's a libertarian, probably.
You voted for Trump? So one of these days I'll talk to Hoff again, and I'll say, why the fuck did you vote for Trump? Why did you feel that was a good idea?
Give him a call.
Hey, but speaking of hookers, our president goes to them.
Apparently, yeah.
He must be going through hell right now, because if he's still horny a lot, he can't act on it. Because if he goes to some whorehouse somewhere, they're all going to know who he is. He can't put on a Make America Great Again cap and think he's in disguise. And we all know he isn't fucking Melania, or more particularly, she isn't fucking him.
That could be, yeah.
I mean, would you want to?
What, she just got in for the money?
Yeah, the only thing made him ever attractive was the fact that he was rich. And in the early days, I guess he kind of wasn't a bad-looking guy. If you had to hang out with a guy with $1 billion, I guess he was acceptable. But now, that man's a train wreck.
Well, who would you have? I don't know. My sex drive pretty much died years ago, so I can't imagine in the 70s it'd be.
My sex drive is gone. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you get older, as I describe it, you start getting your dignity back.
Yeah.
You know, because
the male sex drive is a curse.
Oh,
I mean,
it was my curse all the time. It was my curse. You know, I mean, because it drove me to make hasty decisions.
Bad decisions, constantly chasing women, and
yeah. And today, I'm sorry, you don't chase women anymore.
No,
not if you're in the public eye. You know, if you're some car mechanic and you want to pat a woman on the ass, nobody's gonna. You know, Me Too movement isn't saying don't go.
Yeah, if you're famous, you're doomed.
If you're famous, and that's where I guess the discrimination is that it's a discrimination against people who are famous, and not against people who aren't famous. Because, as I say, if you're a car mechanic, the Me Too movement's gonna go, oh, that's so and so, yeah, and then they're gonna say at the garage, oh, you'll never work here again. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So it really is a discrimination against the well-known. And they never go after people who aren't well-known, because that's not going to get them the publicity. They're not saying, you know, Bob the barber, boy, that guy makes a pass at every woman who comes in the place. You know. Boy, did he make me feel uncomfortable. Never go to Bob the barber again. You never see that. That hasn't made the Me Too blacklist. No. You know?
But if you're famous, you're tried on Twitter, and you're done.
Yeah, and you're not tried in a court of law, so nobody's ever proved anything. And you know, I mean, it's not like I feel sorry for some of these people who have been accused. You know, am I going to feel sorry for Harvey Weinstein? But I do think that he's being unjustly targeted. Mainly because, yes, he probably did all those things. But until it's proven in a court of law, you know, he shouldn't lose any work or have people, you know, not want to do business. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it's just the mere accusation that can ruin your career. And I always like to point at Louis C.K. I mean, what the fuck did Louis C.K. do? You know?
Well, the accusation is now a conviction. So.
The accusation is now a conviction, absolutely. So, you know, yeah. Oh, yes, folks. Women out there are going, well, he pulled his penis out and started jerking off in front of 3 women. Yeah, but he asked permission first. He's a real gentleman. No, but he asked permission first, and what I'm saying is, why didn't somebody in this group go? Why? Because he's so well known and everything. He was using his fame to cow you into this. No, there are 3 women there. One of them at least should have said, "Well, I'm leaving." You know, none of them left. They stood there and watched while he did it. And this man now lost all his shows on FX, and you know, it can't get work in movies or anything. Why? Plus, Louis is a nice guy. So, what the hell? You just can't be funny anymore.
You can't be funny.
I mean, there was a time when saying, "Do you mind if I pull out my penis and jerk off?" was funny. It was just pulling your penis out and jerking off that was the bad part about it. You know.
Exactly.
Simply asking, ha ha ha. Okay, on to other stuff. Anyway, hey, listen, we've run out of time.
We have.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the lovely and attractive Larry Bubbles Brown, who we'll talk to again next week.
We will. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Larry. Bye-bye.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Here we go. What the hell happened to my camera. It moved. You don't want that. Hold on a second, folks. I gotta fix this. How did it move? There we go. There we go. A little bit more. Oh boy. I can't. I gotta fix it, folks. I can't. Haven't got it right. Well, that's really fun. Hold on a second. This thing is very hard to adjust. There we go. And up a little bit more. There we go. I guess that's about the best we can do. Let me see here. What I can do something else here. Ah, boy, I hate this. Just hate this. Configure window. And let me see here. We want to tilt it up. Up, up, up. No, down, down, up. Okay. And then over. Pan it over that way. There we go. And then we turn on the light. Ta-da! Okay. Jeez almighty. This is ridiculous. Anyway, where are my earphones? Hello, everybody. Let me just go apply and okay and all right. And I think we've got this at least will work for tonight. Hello there. How are you? Nothing like being unprepared to do the program, right? Okay. Anyway, so here we go. Anyway, we're on the air. We're ready to go. We had Bubbles. I hope you enjoyed him. And now it's time to go to the citizens panel. Let me see here. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was actually doing some prep for the show tonight while Bubs was talking. So that's why I kind of am. It's not that I'm late, but that I'm a little not prepared, as it were. Here we go. Let's go online. All right, so people can now call us if they so desire to, and we would love to hear from you. Skype keeps asking me, do you want the latest version? It's ready to install now. No, I don't. Why don't you give me a little thing that says, please don't show me this sign again, okay? No, but they're not going to do that, right? Anyway, so we're getting all ready. I should have done all this earlier, right? That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, yeah, that's good. It's good. All right. The only thing is, this is my lamp here. That's in the shot. And I don't know how much I wanted in the shot, but there it is. Anyway. So welcome to the program, and there's a lot to talk about today. Things just get worse for Donald Trump each and every single day, and I know that it will be, the whole ruse will be over when I get our dear friend Phil Meyer to call and say, okay, I give up on Trump. I have to admit he's a dunce. You know, and it isn't that he's a dunce. From what we're hearing coming out of the White House, and now there is another senior official who has written a op-ed page, an op-ed article in the New York Times, which I will read some of later once we have Phil on here, because I want to get his reaction to it, because I doubt if he's read it. He's probably heard about it. He's probably heard what Trump had to say about it, but I don't think that Phil probably has read the damn thing. So now all I have to do is wait for Phil. Oh, by the way, Phil, I opened up the box, and the board is sitting over here. He sent me, Phil is a pretty nice guy. He sends me all his cast-offs. And in this particular case, he sent me his old control board, which is a Behringer. And it's really, it's nice, but it's very big. And while it would just fit here, I have to have this thing to help operate the show. And that would not fit here. So I have to figure out how I would use it. But I'm going to play around with it in another room and see if I can get it working and so on. Anyway, our Skype lines are open, and I'm waiting for the first caller this evening. Who knows when that will come. I pray for the day that nobody calls and I can just call it quits and go home. Now, here's the latest thing that's happened with me. I've been telling you about this Mac Mini that I bought from Phil for $300, which is a good bargain because of the $1,400 Mac Mini. And then I just had to have it fixed because it blew, and I have a new logic board put in for about $400. Okay, so I get it home, and last night after the show, I'm playing with it, and I suddenly realize the main hard drive is too small. And I realized that what it is these are what they call, drives? Fusion drives. And what they are is they have a flash memory element for like startup of the machine and for certain things that you do on a regular basis. And then the hard drive, which is 1 terabyte in size. And I look at that and I see that the size I'm getting out of that drive is only 120 gigs. And I suddenly realized somebody either forgot to put in the drive or hook up the drive, so I have to take it back to Apple. So I call Apple up and I say, look, this is what happened. And they said, well, just come on down and we'll take it in and fix it. And I said, okay. So I take a cab down there, and it's like at 9 o'clock in the morning. I haven't gotten enough sleep. I took a Xanax last night to put me to sleep. In the middle of the night, I had leg cramps. Oh, God. It was just horrible. Anyway, I get down there, and the guy, the dunce who was there to greet people goes, well, the first time we can see you is an hour and a half from now. And I went, then why was I told to bring this down? And they immediately take it in to actually what it is, they're not supposed to repair it. They're supposed to fix their repair. All right? And what I find is if you get annoying enough, they'll get frustrated and turn you over to somebody else who can do something about it. So he says, well, let me get my manager. And the manager comes along, and I tell him my problem. I said, I brought this home yesterday. You guys fixed it, but the fact is that the hard drive isn't working in it, and all I'm getting is the solid state drive. And he said, well, we'll have somebody look at it. And they brought somebody out, and he looked at it, and he said, and they did this all pretty fast. But only because I complained. If I just said, well, I'll wait an hour and a half, and I'll come back in an hour and a half with my stuff, geez almighty. These people are no great geniuses, all right, at the so-called genius bar. Well, this wasn't a genius bar guy. This was a guy, that you go to and say what you want. So anyway, I gave them the machine, and now they're supposed to look at it and see what's wrong. They said that when it was brought in, the hard drive was working. So when they did some diagnostic tests and so on. So it isn't the hard drive being blown, but it's the fact they probably didn't plug the thing into the right plug in order to get the to mount for the hard drive to mount, because it's just not mounting. So, but that's what I was doing at 10 o'clock this morning, right? Very tired and not of any in any great shape. So, anyway. Is anybody out there? Is anybody going to call me? Is this going to be the way it's going to be tonight? Okay. All right. Well, so anyway, after last night when this all happened, I just, to begin with, it made it very difficult for me to get to sleep. It made it very difficult for me to get to sleep. And I was just lying there thinking, I'm thinking very seriously about just not using tech anymore. Because all it does is break down, and then it's one crisis after another. The running of this place, by the way, look, am I going to put up with this? This is a That's nobody. That's what it looks like when nobody's calling. Okay? That's what it looks like when nobody calls. All right? Okay. So did I make you feel guilty? So you start calling, okay? I mean, the lines are open, and I know they're open. But anyway, I started thinking about it, and I started going, maybe I just don't want to have anything to do with tech anymore. It's just getting too frustrating. There's always something breaking down. There's always something to fix. There's always somebody I have to yell at. There's always some agenda I have to have. And then I only do it so that I can come on here and sit here for 15 minutes waiting for somebody to call. Now, last night we had not only a full house, we have what we call a royal flush. And it was good, you know. And we had a lot of people. But right now, oh, well, wait a minute. Here she is. Here comes Renee. At least Renee comes through in a clutch, right?
So, hey, you were talking about giving up tech, but in 4 days, Apple's having its meeting.
What do you mean Apple's having its meeting?
They have their fall meeting on September 9th. So all of the software that we heard about back in March or April or May, they didn't give us any hardware information. So we're all hoping that this meeting, starting on the 9th, I think it is.
And what is it exactly I'm going to buy?
I don't know.
I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone. I have 1, 2, 3, let's see here, 3, 4 Macs. Okay, so what do you expect me to do? Buy more of this shit to make them rich?
So they're coming out with, they think they're coming out with the bigger 10, but for all the parents out there, they're coming out.
What do you mean the bigger 10?
Bigger, yeah.
Yeah. Like this isn't big enough, right?
It's not.
You know,
compared to the rest, it's not. Don't you have fat thumbs like the rest of us?
By the way, this looks smaller than it is. You know why?
Why?
Because it's
black.
No, the bezel is small. Is thinner.
And it doesn't crack either.
This is the same size as the Plus, as the iPhone 6 and 7 Plus. Okay.
All right.
But so they're going to come out with a bigger screen. I mean, come on, this is fine. I mean, what do I need with another? If they get the screens any bigger, I may as well buy a mini Mac, not a mini Mac, but a mini iPad. Yeah, I mean,
so
it's going to be 6.3 inches, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the mini iPad is 7 inches.
Yeah, that's probably true. I have to look that one up. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But I didn't like my mini iPad. It was just so in between what I needed. It was irritating to me.
It looks like that's what they use over at the iPhone store. I mean, at the Apple store. I mean, just for their, taking people in and out and so on, because they're probably a little lighter and smaller and,
You probably have plenty of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And the exciting thing about parents is that they're launching a new version of their cheap iPhone, or their cheap phone, which is called an SE.
Mm-hmm.
And so they haven't updated that for many years. So there's a lot of parents that are going to be kind of excited about that. And Alex, is your watch a 3?
Yeah, it's 3.
Yeah, I dropped my watch face first.
Maybe
on the
it's a 2.
Maybe
it's a 2. I don't know.
Well, if it's a 2, then you wouldn't be able to make phone calls on it. If it's a 3,
no, it's a 3. No, you can only make phone calls on it if you get the one that has phone thing in it.
That's 3.
Well, no, it's not 3. It's the 3 with
Wi-Fi and cellular.
With Wi-Fi and cellular. But here's the thing. And I was down there, and I was thinking about it today, and I had the cash in my pocket to buy one of those. And I went, why? To begin with, the iPhone, the Apple Watch, works in conjunction with your iPhone, and it has to be in proximity of the iPhone in order to work.
Not true for the 3.
Well, wait a minute. Let me finish. I know that.
Okay.
So the question is, whenever I leave the house, I've got my iPhone with me, don't you? No? Why? You leave it home on purpose?
If I'm going out to exercise or walk the dog or anything along those lines, let's just say I'm getting out of my car just to run into the grocery store.
You can take a phone call on your iPhone, on your Apple Watch, even if you don't have the service on it, because it uses this as its base. All right. Have you ever tried to talk to somebody using your Apple Watch? Now, the only thing good about it is it does have Bluetooth, and if you have Bluetooth earphones on, you can hear somebody. Now, I've been saying to myself over and over again, I have no reason to buy it, because would I ever leave the house without my Apple phone? And if I'm not leaving my home without my Apple phone, then the Apple Watch is going to work, right? Today, I go to work out and I forget my phone. And now I've got nothing to watch and nothing to listen to. Which, if I had bought that watch today when I was at the Apple store, I wouldn't have any problem. But you got to pay $10 more a month to your phone company, too.
Right, but let's see what you've got 4 days or something like that. Let's see what they're coming out with.
I mean, if it's a slightly better Apple Watch, then I may think about it.
There's two things that they're talking about. One is they're talking about a more glass-wrapped face, more like the phones and less like the watch used to be. And then the other people are talking about either circular look to it or a way to broadcast.
I think Samsung has a circular now, which is your normal watch configuration. Most watches are circular. They're not square like that.
Right.
And I think that a round one would appeal especially to women far more, because when I bought the girlfriend her Apple Watch, I bought her the smaller one because the big one just looked too klutzy on her. You know?
Oh, well, the small one isn't that small in the first place.
Yeah, it's not that small, but at least it looks a little more dainty, shall we say?
Yeah, and she's tiny, so
she got a tiny
agree with
wrist
that.
and all of that. But what I'm saying is that they're supposed to come out maybe with a new Mac Mini, which at last a new Mac Mini for them to follow up and repair, So, man, I'm telling you, you think you take it to Apple and they'll fix it, right? I bring it back, and somehow the hard drive isn't working. They didn't mount it, it wasn't plugged in or something. And now I got to wait for it for another couple of days. I mean, it's just...
I'd be surprised if they kept it more than 24 hours.
Oh, well, I haven't heard from them yet,
Yeah, you just took that down earlier today.
I took it at the beginning of the day. I should have heard from them by the end of the day. But, I mean, fuck them. Fuck them.
So if they're bringing out a new iMac Mini... So here's the deal. This
now,
is how
iMac, by the way, I've said this before, and I'll say this again. The worst thing you can buy that they put out is an iMac. And the reason is, if they made that hard drive easily replaceable, almost user replaceable, that would be fine. But I've gone online to say, how do you change a hard drive on an iMac? You have to have a degree from MIT to do the fucking thing, even if you have step-by-step instructions. And then you have a great... The only thing I ever put in my iMac, I was able to replace the power supply because it's right in the bottom. But I mean, I'm telling you, don't buy an iMac. Buy yourself a mini or a Mac Mini, so they can follow it up in repair, and then just get yourself a monitor you like, okay, and you're fine. You've got almost just as much power if you buy a major size one as you've got in the iMac. Who needs the iMac? It's not that repairable. Neither's the Mac Mini, but at least it doesn't cost like this thing cost me $2,500.
Yeah. Well, the iMac is the other thing that they're going to announce. They think they're going to announce, or we think they're going to announce.
Yeah, but they keep upgrading that all the time. They haven't changed the Mac Mini in 4 years, something like that.
Very true.
And they haven't changed. There's something else they haven't changed in about 4 years. So, We're talking to two people who couldn't care less.
Sorry, guys.
My question is, why do you want to change the hard drive in your iMac?
Well,
Yeah.
no, well, here's a good reason why.
Okay.
This thing is a 2009. You don't think that hard drive is coming close to failing?
Mine's 2007. It works great.
Really? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I had to reformat hers and everything and redo it to get it working right again.
I might have had to do that once, but yeah.
But all I'm saying is, okay, so you got a 2007. Let's say the hard drive goes bad, and we know hard drives go bad, right? Let's just say, for grins, it goes bad.
Yeah.
It's a 2007. Are you going to take it in and spend like $300 to have it repaired?
No, I'll buy a new one.
Oh, okay. But what do you have now when you're through? You've got basically a screen, a display, which is kind of difficult to use as a separate display.
Wait, hang on a second. This is where I got caught. I can't use my 2012 iMac desktop as a, what is it called? Not a bypass monitor, but an extension.
Yeah, you can link. You're supposed to be able to link it through a wire and get it to slave, maybe. I don't know.
Right. So it has to have two Thunderbolt connections in order to actually do that. And this particular 2012 only has one. So even when this thing gets repaired, if I decide to repair it, I still can't use it as a dummy, as an extra monitor, because it didn't have the two Thunderbolt ports. And I think the two
All
Thunderbolt
I'm saying
ports...
is, wouldn't it have been nice if Apple had just put a plug in there that goes, hey, this is the input, flip this switch or whatever, and you can use it as a second monitor. But no, this thing goes out. I've got a 27-inch brick. And I'm not going to go spend money to replace the hard drive in it. That's putting good money after bad. This thing is almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I just think iMacs are a bad idea. You know,
Well,
it's really nice for somebody who wants it all in one place, and but then when it breaks down, you're fucked. And then you got to go down to the Apple store and deal with those fucking geniuses who can't even get you up and running with a hard drive going. They figured that since the solid state drive was working, I had some kind of data thing. When I went on, I had to reset up my machine all again, and I figured, they erased the hard drive, and then I realized after a while what I was doing was I was programming the 120 gigabyte SSD in their solid state drive, and that they somehow hadn't hooked up or mounted my hard drive, because it should have just booted up the way it always was before I got it fixed. But no, the genius is there.
You gotta love Steve Jobs for that. So another thing that my iPhone does, and I know your iWatch does this too, is it allows me to participate in the Apple Heart Study.
Well, fuck them. I don't want them to know what's going on with my heart.
You don't want them collecting data, so in the future they might be able to use that to help somebody like Jeff or Marty or somebody else with heart problems.
My heart isn't going to help Jeff. Jeff's
monitor.
huh? Yeah, Jeff's ticker is well taken care of.
He doesn't live in the hospital. Come on.
Yeah, he doesn't need me.
More doctors that you know.
Yeah.
Checking on me.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, it's you know, he's a study in and of himself, and he doesn't need to be on the Apple program to be able to be a benefit to science.
There you go, Jeff.
His doctors are trying to figure out how he's still alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's actually, they're working very hard.
Well, I'm glad he is, because then I would have never gotten to know him, and I like him. So, you know. But then again, that's somebody else I have to worry about. Like, where's Phil tonight? Did he have a heart attack? He didn't say it was going to be a Phil-free night. And every time he doesn't call, I go, did he have a stroke? Because
he's perfectly rotor-rooted. There's no way he's going to have a heart attack now.
You don't know.
Don't
Well, they
think.
check all of the valves.
Right, Jeff? Am I right? You don't know that these doctors aren't like the repair people at Apple.
I've got to hook up something.
You know, they
Oh, my
forgot to hook
God.
something up when it was through.
Phil, please call. He's already got you in the morgue, or at least on the table.
You know, and I worry about Phil that way because, you know, I don't think Faye would call me and say he's dead. You know.
He's going to have to leave a
Yeah,
post-it note.
So you know what I'm doing right now?
Oh.
I'm rolling my foot on a golf ball.
Oh, PT.
Yes, I know what that's about.
You know what that's about? What's it about?
You've got
Here.
your foot is painful, and this little ball is getting to stretch your foot in the right place, and theoretically it'll go back to be a normal foot.
Well, you see, I have this numbness in my feet, and I was worried, and then the feet themselves started hurting in my shoes a lot, and so I figured one had to do with the other. But it turns out that my physical therapist supposed that what was wrong was he says, you've got plantar fasciitis or
Plantar
whatever,
fasciitis.
you know, and your feet are a little on the flat side. That's what's causing the problem. So take this golf ball 5 minutes a day.
Play with it.
And you know something? My feet are feeling much better, even just the whole toe situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that's kind of a way of solving the problem. But now it's going to cost me a fortune in golf balls, you know. So,
Why?
I don't know.
Throw them out the window? Get them out.
Not just the golf ball.
I'm glad
size, is it?
we don't have a cat full time because a cat would take them and put them places where we couldn't
And
find them.
So what our cat used to do, if you get a long enough hallway,
Yeah.
is those plastic rings that come from the milk cans. You put that down, and they'll bat it all the way down the hallway and
Yeah.
back up.
But last night I had real horrible cramps in my ankles while I was sleeping. Just, you know.
Had you done this prior to going to bed?
What?
Played with your golf ball?
No, yes. But
Okay.
no, but that's not what caused it. I think what's causing my leg cramps, and they go away when I use magnesium, enough magnesium. Okay.
Good.
But what I think the problem was with my legs, my cramping, is my diet. This low carb can cause cramps. So I take magnesium, and I guess I didn't take enough last night I woke up in the middle of the worst cramps I've ever had in my ankles. But I haven't had cramps for a month or so, so I don't know. Hello, Patrick. How are you? We look alike now because I went and got a haircut today.
Jesus. Look back home and I can't see. It's like looking at the sun.
Wait a minute, let me get out of the way of Patrick here so we can get him full picture. There we go.
Oh my.
Okay. No, so I'm thinking, huh?
Looking for my sunglasses.
Yeah. Well, I
be
went.
back.
I went and got a haircut today.
How much did they charge you?
Oh, this is my big haircut. This is costing. Let me see here. How much did it cost?
$125 every 4 weeks. What do you want?
No. This was
Mine.
I hate to say it, but it's better. It's very good. $12. You know, for my haircut.
Oh, look at that badass ponytail
Oh, I
and
can see it.
wraparound.
Wow.
My haircuts are free.
See? Oh, that's your mom.
My mom, and then when I was with my ex, she would do it, or the kids would do it. Just take the clippers. Can't fuck it up.
I like that.
I mean, you put the guide on it for the height you wanted, and you can't screw it up. So,
Well, but here's the thing. I would.
Scott-
I know that I could probably get myself some hair clippers, and for what I've got here, okay, Marjorie could do it for me. All right, you know, without any big deal. Okay. But I like going to the barber. Now, I go to a barber here in Harlem. Do you ever see the movie Barber Shop?
Mm-hmm.
Well, take that and then bring it down about 10 notches, and you've got my barber shop. And yet it becomes a rallying place for the neighborhood. We have another one up here that is all the time, it's full, but not with people getting haircuts, but people just socializing with each other.
Hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out. But I went in there once, and I just felt out of place because I was white. It was like, you know, I felt like they were looking at me like I was a cultural phenomenon or something.
So you felt uncomfortable, but did you stay to maybe work through that uncomfortableness, or did you bail?
Well, I didn't feel uncomfortable because I was, I was a white guy in a black place. I felt uncomfortable because they really didn't interact with me that much, you know. It was
you didn't know them. They didn't know you. It was your first time.
Yeah, well, anyway, I went to this other one, which is not as social, not as many people there, but it's still the same kind of shop, you know. They just hang out there and talk to each other, and, you know. But the guy does a nice, decent enough job. I mean, what can you do with this? Okay? You can't really fuck this up. And when it grows out and the problem is that a really good haircut will grow out better than a bad haircut will grow out. So this doesn't grow out very good. So when it gets long enough, another $12, I have them shave it off. Big deal.
I was going to make a Trump joke, but I couldn't get one out.
Yeah. I'm wondering what happened to Phil tonight, because I really wanted to read a little bit of this op-ed in the New York Times.
I read it too, and I read it twice. And the first time I read it, I was really off-put by the statement about we're to the left, but we're not to the left where we were going to obstruct you or something like that. And I'm like, who the fuck says that?
Well, who says that? Who says that is a basic right-winger like the guy who wrote the op-ed piece. And I felt that statement in and of itself made him more creditable. Because
he knew who you were.
It made him more creditable because he wasn't sitting around saying, "Hey, I'm some lefty writing this. I'm a guy who's been drinking the Kool-Aid all these years, but I can't drink this swill." You know. Yes, Patrick.
When I read it, I only read it once because I just really had no interest in reading it again. What I took away from it is, and maybe it's just because I'm a cynical bastard.
Yeah.
The way I read it is it was feeding some food to the left so that they get something and feel better about it, and it's not an actual, real thing, that it's more of a made up. I mean, there might be some hints of realism in there, just enough, but I think it's throwing meat to the left so that they can maybe think, oh, there's somebody in there that's on our side. And
no, I don't think that's the way it came off, Patrick.
It's the way it came off. I'm with Patrick.
I read it and I went, it sounds to me like somebody throwing meat to try to satisfy some people on the left, and that was it. Or even some never Trumpers on the right. You know, just I didn't take it as a serious piece. I looked at it, I read it, and I thought this is somebody that is trying to placate in some way.
I didn't feel that. What I felt was this is somebody who, for one reason or another, is angry. And he's angry, I think, because he sees how dangerous this man can be and how they've had to keep him in check. And that he wanted America to know that if you're worried, there are people in the White House who are keeping him in check. There are people who are not giving in to his whims, as it were. Now, the thing that Trump complained about was that this was an anonymous op-ed, right? And how can you believe somebody who's anonymous? Well, the Times does, because the Times knows who this anonymous contributor is. They say in the very beginning, we know who he is. He just doesn't want to be named because he doesn't want to lose his job. So the Times is kind of doing due diligence in that they know who it is, so they know the credibility of what he's saying or not saying. Now, from there, you can take on what you feel he's trying to do. Could this have been a planted thing by Trump, for instance?
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's somebody that, and I'm very serious when I say this. I think it's throwing meat to the wolves, that being the left, and people on the right that hate Trump, to give them something to cheer about and say, oh, yay, there's somebody, planted in the White House.
I didn't go yay for that reason. I just read it out of interest as a fly on the wall, Let me just read a few things here for the audience so they know what we're talking about. It says, the dilemma, which he does not fully grasp, is that many of senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I would know I'm one of them. Now, here's what you didn't like, Renee. To be clear, ours is not the popular resistance of the left. We want the administration to succeed and think many of its policies have already made America safer and more prosperous.
There was the statement.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, but he didn't talk about the resistance. He called them the resistance. He didn't call them obstructionist. He didn't,
Right, but we don't want Trump to fail. Mm-hmm. We don't want America to disintegrate into the shit pit hole that it's going to disintegrate into. And the fact that he said it that way means that he thinks that there's a bunch of us out there that actually think that way. On the contrary, we don't want old people dying without health care.
Okay.
We don't want people losing their health care.
Look, you're speaking to the converted here. Don't shout. You don't have to make a speech. It's not necessary. Except for Patrick. You haven't got him convinced, but Patrick is copacetic, Anyway, he goes on to say, that's why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can do to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office. The root of the problem is the president's amorality. Anyone who works with him knows he's not moored to any discernible first principles that guide his decision-making. Now, that I think is an interesting comment. Although he was elected a Republican, the president shows little affinity for the ideals long espoused by conservatives, free minds, free markets, and free people. At best, he has invoked these ideals in a scripted setting. At worst, he's attacked them outright. In addition to his mass marketing of the notion that the press is the enemy of the people, President Trump's impulses are generally anti-trade and anti-democratic. Don't get me wrong, there are bright spots that the near ceaseless negative coverage of the administration fails to capture: effective deregulation, historic tax reform, and the more robust military and more. Now, that's the reason why you dislike him and why I would dislike him, because he believes in deregulation and things like that. But still, I would rather hear this from somebody who politically I disagree with and is still giving me the message of what's going on inside. So what is it that bothers you again, Patrick, that you just think he's playing to the...
Yeah. I think that he's just toying.
How do we do that?
And when I say you guys, that's not a racial pejorative, because everybody here is white. I just think he's trying to placate to the left, and it's written so well, Alex, just as you're saying, that he writes it as if I was going to write it, so that it sounds genuine coming from me on the right, with just enough sprinkles in there for people on the left to say, you know what, he might be a righty, but he's the type of righty that I could deal with.
Oh, no, I couldn't deal. I wouldn't want this guy to be president with his politics. I wouldn't want him to be any public position near me because of his position. But I think the stuff he talks about, like this, meetings with him veer off topic and off the rails. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. Now, when I read that, I don't go, yay. I'm frightened.
Yeah.
I am
So
frightened.
what do you think John Kelly's been doing for 2 years? John Kelly has been fighting these fires.
Do any of you think this might have been written by John Kelly?
Oh, man, no, I
No.
don't think so.
No? Who do you think it was? Anybody we know?
Well,
Wait a minute.
Dan Coates?
You're holding
That-
it up.
that's Florence McDonald's or O'Donnell's opinion.
What? Who is it?
Coates?
Coates?
Dan Coates?
Dan Coates?
National Security.
Older
Security
guy,
advisor.
70-year-old guy.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't need the money.
Yeah. Patrick?
All of the words that you just read are all of the same words that I read in my news feed constantly from my friends on the left. Off the rails, that whole paragraph. All he's doing is the same thing that I do when I apply for a job, Alex. I read the job description, and then I parrot back all of the main words and points that they want to hear. So if the job says advertising and billboards and this and that, and I've done that, I'm going to add that in there. All you're doing is parroting back what people want to hear.
To make them feel comfortable.
Have you ever heard one of his speeches?
Yeah,
Have you ever listened to his speeches?
I'm not
Try to listen with your ears, okay?
He's not talking about Trump.
He talks all the time.
He's not talking about Trump. He's talking about the guy who wrote the frickin' op-ed.
No,
Well,
but-
he's talking.
no,
That's
no.
what Trump is in a
No,
meeting.
But what he's saying,
I'm
what
sorry.
he wait a minute, wait a minute, wait,
Idiot.
hold on a second. Yes, Patrick.
Okay. All right, just chill out for a minute.
What I love, you know what I love is that when you wanted to talk because he was going on a rant, you made your hand bigger. You made your hand bigger.
You're an idiot. What can I say?
But you're not listening to what
Okay,
I got.
okay.
I'm
Wait a minute,
gonna go.
listen to
Alex, I'm
Patrick.
gonna leave right now
No,
because
no, don't,
I don't want
don't.
to piss off Patrick.
No,
okay?
no,
I'm leaving.
don't, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there.
No, I cannot talk to fucking idiots anymore. So I'm just gonna go so he can
No,
grab.
wait a minute. Oh boy.
Oh my God, what happened? Get back here, Scott.
All right. Well, anyway, what I
Yeah.
was saying is, Scott is right. And I was going to tell him that if you watch the rallies and that, I mean, I don't because I don't care to. But yes, he goes off topic. He does that. My point was, all of my left friends that write about various things, whether it'll be the last rally he did, they will use the word off the rails, off topic. That was my point.
But could
Not-
it be?
I-
Could it be, Patrick? Could it be they're using these terms because of they're the apt description of what's going on?
No. There are dog whistles. There are dog whistles, right? Is that what Patrick's trying to say?
And I think that's what Scott missed from me, is all this, whoever wrote this is doing is using the same word that you guys use when you describe it. So you recognize yourself in the piece. And that was my point about when I apply for a job, I read the description, I look for the key word that they want to hear, and that's what I put in. So that when they read it, they're reading themselves and they're going, oh, yeah, and that's what I thought in.
Well, listen. Let me say this, Patrick, and this is why I maybe disagree with you about this particular thing, which I think is slightly different. I'm always very suspicious of anybody, to the right or to the left, who tells me what they think I want to hear. Okay, and I don't like them for that. I feel like they're tickling my balls because they think it'll make me feel good, right? Yeah.
Don't fucking do that when I'm drinking.
Yeah, there you go.
I just swallowed as soon as you said tickle my balls.
I actually agree with Patrick.
But wait a minute. I'm one of those people who is very suspicious of that. And I don't feel this is necessarily pandering. To begin with, I want to know, I'd like to know what the guy's motivation is. You know, is he upset with Trump? Is he pissed at Trump? Is he trying to get even with Trump? You know, there's some motivation here that while I don't think knowing who it is, I think it's just important that the New York Times does and realizes he's a credible person. But what I want to know is his motivation. And I don't get a sense of what his motivation is in this. What is it in for him? What's in it for him to report this to the New York Times? Is it that he suddenly had a fit of guilt? You know, in which case, okay, you know, I understand. Anyway,
why are we assuming it's a him?
I'm going to assume it's a him, because that's really the people that Trump surrounds himself with. You know, is it Kellyanne Conway? Don't think so.
Yeah, but this might be a staffer we don't know. So you're assuming again.
If this is a staffer,
I mean, there's millions.
A simple staffer would probably not have access to the president in quite the way that he could make these statements. By the way, we need more callers if you're out there, because Scott, come back.
Scott, get your Boddicker back here.
Scott, yeah, get your Boddicker back here, Scott. Come on, Scott.
And we will let you rant about him, because you are completely correct, and so that rant is well justified. I thought Patrick was talking about the person who wrote it. But see, I agree with Patrick. It is. I thought after I read it that it was a dog whistle to us. I took that piece of paper, it stroked my ego, it danced around my thought.
So does everybody on MSNBC. So does Rachel Maddow, okay?
I don't watch that.
Yeah, she does the same thing. That's why I don't watch her.
I probably have seen her once.
I don't like MSNBC because basically I think those guys are pandering to me. You know, I'd rather watch Fox where I know it's the enemy, you know. And find great disdain in them. At least they're not trying to kiss my ass, or as I said, tickle my balls. And
you know what? Can we talk about Jeff Sessions and whether he's going to get some real balls? Because they're pushing him into a corner. Is he going to fight back like the lawyer or the security person that he is, or is he just going to roll right over? Anybody?
I don't think he's going to roll over. He's already pretty much made statements, when Trump's made statements about him, that indicate that you really don't fuck with Jeff Sessions, because he's just not going to roll over. You know, Jeff Sessions is a asshole. Okay, no question about it. But he's a principled asshole. So. You know, and he doesn't like the idea that the very people who he's managing are being assailed by this guy. You know, that the president, I mean, of course, Patrick, it should be known, is no Trump supporter, okay? So don't ever get that idea. But you've got to feel uncomfortable, Patrick, with what's coming out, whether it's the Woodward book or whether it's this op-ed piece, or whether it's just in general watching this man just absolutely have a breakdown in front of us.
I'm less worried about it than you guys are, and I'll say that generally, because I think there are enough people in enough places there, like Madison and some of the others, that keep this shit in check. The thing is, if Twitter didn't exist, most of the stuff that we hear about and are aware of, we would never be aware of or hear about, because it would stay in the White House. And it might come out at rallies, but it wouldn't be a daily thing, because you can't tell me Reagan, Clinton, both of the Bushes, Obama, they didn't have their days that they wanted to just blurt shit out and say, you know, fuck all y'all. But they didn't use Twitter. I mean,
but
Obama.
Even if those people had Twitter, I don't think they would use it the way Trump is using it. They wouldn't. They would to begin with. Trump basically uses it as a bully pulpit.
Every morning.
Huh? What were you saying?
Every morning.
Yeah. A big bully pulpit and calling people names and being a bully, basically.
And what does that do for Malaria's no bullying campaign?
Melania. Oh, malaria?
Malaria, whatever.
Malaria.
You know...
It would be a bad thing, but in my case, since I spell like crap, it works really well. Because if you try to put Melania Trump in there, it'll autocorrect to malaria. So I leave it malaria.
You know, Marjorie has something on her computer that she has to this very day that was started by was offered by John Oliver. I don't know if it's still available, but it works on hers. Every time the word Trump comes up in print, it's changed to Drumpf, which is the real family name.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of hoping Jeff Sessions is going to say, you know what, I'm with Mueller. I'm with everybody that I grew up with. I'm with the entire security system, all of that stuff. And I'm gonna say, fuck you, Trump. We're doing it the way we were always taught to do. But am I dreaming? Am I drinking the Kool-Aid?
First, Patrick, and then and Jeff. Okay, Jeff first, and then Patrick. I don't have many people to choose from here, so I'm just trying. I thought I was being democratic, but who cares?
Yeah, one out of two is not so bad. I was going to answer to Patrick because, I mean, there's a certain risk of having Trump as being the president. Don't you agree with that at all?
I think there's a certain risk of any of the presidents being president. I mean, with Trump, I understand what you're getting at with a temperament and that sort of thing. However,
well, it's more than a temperament. He lies every day, multiple times, about answering the same equation.
But lies don't necessarily impact us in a way that really can cause a lot of damage. It damages his own reputation. What bothers me more than anything is the ill recognition from a lot of people on my side of the very thing that you're talking about. I mean, when I hear him lie, I know what he's bullshitting, and I just automatically put it in the bullshit side of my brain. That's why I don't watch the rally, because there's 90%.
You've already put up a filter.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a filter.
You know,
okay.
Right. And the thing is, when there's policy stuff, I know what policy, and even the stuff dealing with Jeff Sessions now, him talking shit about Jeff Sessions, I put in the bullshit area, and I pay more attention to what Sessions is saying, and so and it bothered me that there are people on my side that either are willfully being ignorant or are really just dumb and don't have the ability to distinguish between what is bullshit and what is, like the term dog whistle, things that people on the right want to hear, even though he has no intention of pursuing them.
Right.
You know, and it making us feel good. He's jerking our side off with certain things, and nobody's smart enough to say, I think he's jerking us off on this one.
Let's assume that everything you said is true, and you're right. and he's just been doing this to drive us crazy. All right, that's all right. The problem is he has another job. It's called President of the United States. And he's spending much, much too much of his time of ignoring people.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, when I see him...
To the point, like, we really need the President of the United States. That's what we pay for him.
You know, we let me bring something up here, and I think this is worth discussing. There's something to be said for the seasoned politician, okay? In that he's like a plumber who learns how to change your pipes, right? He take a seasoned politician, and he knows how to do this stuff, especially guys who come from being governors, as an example, all right? I would always prefer a governor to become president than almost any other part of government, because they have to deal with, in microcosm, they have to deal with the same things, whether it's security or whether it's budgets or whatever. And then they simply fall into the president's office, and it's just a larger version of the same job. But there's something to be said, in spite of the fact that everybody goes, oh, politicians, we don't need politicians anymore. We got to just put the average guy into office. Well, here's an example of doing that. And it's a man with absolutely no experience whatsoever, okay, who is not prepared for the job, doesn't know what it entails, and honestly believes that if you're president, you can just wave your hand and they will kill Assad of Syria, you know? And as a matter of fact, that's one of the things that really bothers me about these reports coming out. True or not, the fact that there was a possibility that he may have asked that the leader of a foreign country be assassinated is pretty scary, because that means he can ask for me to be assassinated.
Yeah, and that's something that you would learn when you were in the 6th grade.
Yeah. Sorry.
Patrick.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Jeff, that the United States has had for, I don't know if it's forever, but I know it's been as long as I've been alive and before that, there's a no assassination clause, or whatever you want to call it, understanding. I don't know if it's written in or not, but, you know, and here's the thing. What people need to understand, and it's just like what Harry Reid did with the whole confirmation process by getting rid of the supermajority with the Supreme Court nominee deal, and he did that a couple years ago. Okay, that's coming to bite you guys in the ass. Now, just follow me here. If we assassinate a world leader, and let's say if the Trump people say, yeah, let's assassinate the leader of Syria, what they're forgetting is you have now opened Pandora's box like Harry Reid did, and now another country could very well, even though they could do it anyway, but there seems to be an understanding internationally, we don't take out world leaders. And what happens? What if our president gets assassinated by Syria or Iran or Canada, or, you know, you can't do that. And that was one thing that I don't remember exactly how it went last night on your show, but I wanted to climb through my phone and choke Phil when he said, well, I like that idea, or something like that. Because we can't allow that. It doesn't matter who it is. If we're in a war, like with World War II with Hitler, okay, it's a different thing. But in basic peacetime, like we are now, you cannot do that. And you can't, at a whim, order your military to do shit like that.
But he thinks, obviously, if this story is true, he thinks he can.
Right, but thankfully, and this is what I was getting at earlier, there are people in there like Mattis that are smart enough that will say, yeah, okay, and then go and say, don't fucking do it. Just nod your head at him and.
Well,
Trump, he forgets about shit. He's so erratic that if he ordered a hit on the head of Syria, 20 minutes later somebody throws one of the rings off of the milk jug down the hallway, and he's running after.
Well, what's the name of the head of the head of Syria? Is Assad, right?
Assad.
Yeah. I'm just sorry. If he had wanted to assassinate Assange, I might not have disagreed, but.
Yeah, we could put Assange, and then who's the other? Edward Snowden, and then Assange.
Well, no, Snowden's okay.
You know, the more I read about Snowden, the more he's not okay.
Those two are after themselves, and that's it. They're not for any greater good.
Well, anyway, the one thing, let's just finish off with what this article is about, this op-ed piece. He says, the erratic behavior would be even more concerning if it weren't for unsung heroes in and around the White House. Some of his aides have been cast as villains by the media, but in private they've gone to great lengths to keep bad decisions contained to the West Wing, though they are clearly not always successful. Again, I wonder what this person's motivation is, his or hers. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't think it's a woman.
I don't think so either. But you just got hell bent on the his part. Yeah. Well. It could be.
Well, don't think me a sexist because I assume it's a guy.
No, it was just that we. So the thing is, and this is what
as a matter of fact, if you don't know if something is a he or she, it's usually referred to as a he, and that's kind of a cumulative.
In this country, that's true.
Well, what do you do in other countries?
In different countries, it might be a she.
By the way, do you want to know what the most non-sexist name I ever heard for a woman? Okay.
We have
a non-assuming word. No, a non-assuming word. It was started by Southerners. And it was adopted by Gloria Steinem, and the term was Ms. First time I ever heard it was when I was in the South, and I said, how come you always refer to women as Ms., M-I-Z basically, instead of M-S, which is what Steinem did with it. And they said, oh, well, we don't mean any disrespect. We call them Ms. because when you meet a woman, you don't know whether she's married or not married, and if you say Ms., that would apply to both. So what term could we come up with to apply to both when we don't know whether somebody is going to be a man or a woman, like in this situation?
You have that same problem when you meet a work friend or a work co-worker. You don't know if their spouse is male or female, and so you have to say significant other instead of wife or husband. So I don't know what you would use in the other.
Well,
Patrick might know.
Whatever term they use. You know, yes, Patrick.
I messaged Phil and asked him if he was dead. He said that he wrote you yesterday. That tonight was photo night. For first and second basic color category, I had the only photo in the category MMA shot taken with John Perot.
Yeah.
Tell Alec to read his messenger.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Phil Meyer. Oh, here it is, finally. Oh.
Hey.
I didn't read it. I didn't see it because it didn't pop up. It will be a Phil-free Wednesday photo club. What, he came in second place and he was the only photo, did you say?
No, he went into multiple categories.
And he won one of them, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'd like to see this MMA picture because he was supposed to have real up-close access. So between him and John, this could be a really cool shot.
Yeah, but I would like to see how bad the other photos were. You know?
Well, I'd like Scott to call up.
Yeah, Scott, come on, you know.
Feel bad, Scott. It was
because you weren't
misinterpreted what I was getting at.
He misinterpreted what you were saying, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
and I agreed with him that the rallies are off the rails, but that wasn't what I was talking about. It was the use of the terms off the rails with a nice term that people on the left
Okay,
want
but
to.
let me ask you this, Patrick. Don't you think that we as lefties, and I think every American should be a little worried about this guy and about what he's capable of, because he can go so-called off the rails? I mean, we knew this. You and I knew this about the guy before he even ran for president. Every New Yorker knew it. In fact, I'm going to tell you something. This is very interesting. Mario Cuomo is running for governor again, and I can remember his name now instead of in my doctor's office. He's running for governor again, and every ad he's running is an anti-Trump ad. We got to do you got to get Cuomo because we don't want Trump to do this and we don't want Trump to do that. Not that as a governor he has a real shot at doing it, but you know, and it suddenly hit me. There's no other city or state, maybe California possibly, where you could run a campaign as being anti-Trump in order to win. And win, because New Yorkers, by and large, hate Trump, even Republican New Yorkers, because they've lived with him for decades, and they know what he's all about, and they know the phony that he is, and you know, yes, Jeff.
That's why I won't admit that I grew up in Queens.
There you go.
Prove it.
Well, every time I go out to see Shecky, he picks me up with his car, and we go back to his place, and we pass the Trump mansion. It isn't theirs anymore, but it was. And then he took me around the street and up the block, and in back of that house is the house where he was born.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wait, the house where Shecky was born or Trump was born?
Trump was born.
Ah, fuck that. Don't put that on my tour list.
Oh, well.
When I used to go to high school, I had to get on the train. And to get on the train, you had to get on a bus. The bus would go right by there.
Oh, so you lived in Jamaica Estates?
Well, I lived in Bayside.
Oh, okay.
But that's how to get to the train.
Yeah. So but what I'm saying is, and I think that's the uncomfortableness we have, that we didn't think that anybody could become president that could be so inexperienced, so egotistical, so of himself. I mean, he doesn't care about America; he cares about Trump. And we were hoping that, you know, that as somebody to the left, I was hoping that Trump somehow would turn out to surprise me. I wanted him to. You know, I didn't want him to turn out to be everything I expected he would be, but he's living up to everything I thought he would be and more. And I shouldn't be frightened. Hell, at 78, who knows how many more years I've got, you know? But as long as I'm here, I don't want to live in a world in which I don't get my Medicare, you know, and I don't get my Social Security. But
they're going to take that. They want your earned benefits, like your ex-wife says.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. They're earned benefits. They're not.
I agree.
It's not a handout. And when it comes to Medicare, you pay for it every month out of your Social Security. So it's not.
I agree.
It's not like you have a free pass here, you know.
Plus, you have to pay for your insurance for the other 80, the 20%.
Yeah. Yes, Patrick.
And I must have been the only person in the entire United States that when I heard that my Social Security and Medicare are entitlements, the interpretation of the term entitlement to me was and still is, you are entitled to them because you paid for them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I couldn't believe when I started, as I got older, I kept hearing Democrats specifically bitching about that term, saying they're not entitlements, they're rights. And I'm thinking, isn't that what the fucking word means?
Well, I think to begin with, the word entitlements it kind of gives you the attitude of, oh, so you think you're entitled, huh? You know, that kind of thing, right?
Like a freebie.
But I like earned benefits, which my wife came up with, because that's exactly what they are. They are earned benefits. They're benefits you get because you earn them over the years. You know, if you're somebody who didn't work that much over the years, you're not going to get very much Social Security. But if you worked a lot, you're going to get much more Social Security. I think I get the max, okay?
People,
that's why I don't like the word that we used to know.
Marjorie, who made less than I did in her lifetime, gets slightly less than I do. You know.
Yeah, I like your ex-wife's earned. I like earned benefits. I think that explains it all.
Well, because also, you know, we have paid into it. You paid into it every year, to a maximum of about $9,000, $10,000 a year. And so it's not something you're entitled to it because it's your money. That's why you're entitled to it. You know, so earned benefits, I think, is the best way to put it, and then nobody can argue against that or get a negative connotation out of that.
Well, good luck trying to sell that word.
Yeah.
Either side, and not even just to the right, but to the left, because it's been so long that the term's been used that you're not going to change people's mentality.
Let's briefly change the subject to something that's close to Renee's heart. I saw the story today finally came out that Ozzy Argento, who was accused of having sex with this underage child, that she said that she was actually attacked by him. Which is interesting because Ozzy Argento is one of the formers and one of the people who created Me Too. Always talked about the victim becoming guilty of something. And this is what she's doing with this kid. Exactly the same thing. How do you explain that exactly? Do you just write off Ozzy Argento as just a bad seed that gives bad name to the rest of the movement? Or
is this like an R. Kelly thing?
What?
Where R. Kelly... Doesn't anybody know that R. Kelly's fucking people that are underage, or am I the only person that knows this?
No.
I couldn't name a song by R. Kelly. I know her name.
So you're telling me that so I don't know who this woman is, and she's got a son? You're gonna have to fill me in.
Argento was, first of all, to put her in context, you will understand, was Anthony Bourdain's girlfriend.
Okay.
Okay. She is also the daughter of Dario Argento, who is a really famed Italian horror filmmaker.
Cool.
And she got into movies, I guess, because her father was in the movies, and she did a lot of her father's films as well. And I've known the name Ozzy Argento. I've known it well enough that I know it's Asia and not Asia. Okay, that I know who she is. So when she came out with all these claims against Harvey Weinstein, I knew exactly who she was. But it just seems that the Me Too movement doesn't know exactly how to handle this now, because she's doing some of the things they accuse men of doing. Okay.
Well, they're probably saying those tactics works against them, so they might be using them for them. But can we talk about? Let's talk about Louis C.K. for a moment.
Okay.
And then let's talk about Al, whatever his name is. Louis C.K. is trying to push this to get back in front of everybody. There's two things I want Louis C.K. to do. I want to admit when he whipped out this dick that no woman in that room was a comedian.
No,
because the right answer to a man whipping out his dick in front of you in a business meeting is laughing your ass off.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I think they all were comedians, and very bad ones, because if I was a comedian and he whipped out his dick, I would have an appropriate line for it. You know?
Right, and they did not.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a big deal. But they did not because they thought that if they said something, they would lose their job.
You know something? So I'll tell you. Here's why I feel sorry for Louis. I've known Louis in the past. He's a nice guy. I found him a decent guy. Most people will say that they like him, that he's a decent person. He made what were some regret. I mean, I would never. Let me put it this way: I would never think of whipping my dick out. Okay, I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he thought he was being funny. Who knows? You know. But all I'm saying is, when we put this up against Spacey, against Weinstein, against the doctor who was, the Olympic doctor, people like that, Louis C.K. did practically nothing, okay? But he was in that first wave of people who were outed, and that's why he's not working now, because, Ryan Seacrest was accused, and when he was accused, they just kind of looked at it and said, we don't think so, and they let him keep working. Now, that was because it was later down the line. Okay, do you get what I'm saying? In other words, if you were the class of 15
of Harvey Weinstein,
of 2015,
if you were in the vicinity of Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby in that time period,
Bill Cosby,
you got immediately swept up.
Bill Cosby is Bill Cosby is the grandfather of this. Okay, he came before any of all of this. Okay, he was kind of not part of the Me Too wave. He was already,
He created it.
No, you got to go back a little. Well, no, I guess Woody Allen came after him.
Woody Allen came after who?
After Cosby, when it came to the question improprieties. Now, I question whether Woody Allen, is guilty of anything, because there's been no proof to that.
Well, she was so. All of that was an underage issue and a disgusting husband issue.
He was outed by Ronan Farrow in an article because Ronan Farrow wants to get even with him for what he did to Mommy. Okay? And Ronan Farrow's a little sleazy prick.
Well, was she underage?
Who was underage?
Sun
Yi, I think she may have been underage, but look, they got married.
No, but
wait a minute, hold on a second. They got married, and they have been married for the last 20 years. This has been a 20-year, very successful marriage.
Right, but the issue is that she was underage. That's the real issue.
Was she underage?
Because that's where the law is.
Or was it? No, wait a minute. Was she underage? I don't know if she was underage when the act took place. I think she was of age, but what made it so horrible in their mind, in everybody's mind, was it was his stepdaughter or his adopted daughter that he had sex with. I don't think it was an age issue.
But you know who cleaned that off the slate? Who completely wiped anything that we have about Woody Allen in our heads about what a pervert he is.
I mean, lowering the bar as far as
Donald Trump touching his daughter. Oh my God! So it just the way he grabs her, that will be.
Well, there's a guy who's been given a Me Too pass completely.
Oh, big time! If he wasn't president, they would have stomped him. We would have been tracking his ass down the street in New York City, and I don't think any woman would have stopped us.
I'm sure that the stories that we've already heard about Trump that way are small in comparison to the total number over the years. All right. I mean, the fact that this guy would go into the Miss Teen USA pageant, right, and watch the girls taking their clothes off is
it's
a little
crime.
Yes, it is a crime.
Depending on their age, it's a crime.
Yeah. And after he made that statement, nobody went out and investigated the Miss Teen USA pageant. They should have. But, I mean, I guess we could call him, hi, ready for this? The Teflon Don.
No.
Because
he's right. He could kill somebody in the middle of New York City, and nobody's going to prosecute
I mean, for
him.
all the stuff we know about him, we know his association with the mob. I mean, his lawyer was Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was the mob's lawyer. Okay? We know about all that, and they still elected him, these morons out in the Midwest somewhere. Who are they? These crazy assholes who say, well, he's good with money. I saw him on TV every week, you know. Somebody mentioned, and I'll go to you, Patrick. Somebody mentioned that what they set up with the Apprentice. The Apprentice set up the whole possibility of the presidency because it cast him. They said, look at the lighting on Donald Trump in those shows in the boardroom. You know, the spotlight on him. He's perfectly manicured. Looks like the boss. You know, looks, and they said they did everything in that show, at least in the last couple of seasons, to make him look positively presidential. You know, and that's the image that those yutzes out in the hinterlands who only know the world they watch from reality TV knew of Donald Trump. He got elected on The Apprentice. Yes, Patrick.
And he got elected from every news station, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. All of them are just as guilty because they never carried the same number of rallies or meet and greets of Ted Cruz or Bush or any other Republican running. It was Donald Trump. And it was Donald Trump because, I think you're right, because The Apprentice, he was the reality star. Oh, this will be interesting, this will be funny, this will be this will be that. All right, so he got more free advertising than any of the other Republicans running combined.
I think he had less to spend than they did. I mean, Hillary had a war chest that would choke a horse. And he didn't have to deal with any of that, you know, because he knew how to get the press to turn out just because they wanted to make fun of him. I mean, that election was made and paid for by MSNBC, CNN, Fox, Headline News, Newsmax. I mean, they just ate it up because, hey, he might say something goofy. Hey, listen, he said something goofy. Oh, we get on that. You know, and to this day, they're suckers for that bait. I mean, how many times does he go on and do a speech at the Omaha State Fair, and they're covering it, and they're covering it.
Yep. And that's what I was just gonna say. Even now, they'll sit and they'll bitch on MSNBC and CNN about him calling them fake news, and yet they're broadcasting his
name
for the same reason as before. Let's see if we can catch him in a gotcha moment. And they're not thinking, leave it alone.
Well, this is why I've been saying, look, he says you're the enemy of the people. He says you're fake news. He does everything to insult you. In the case of NBC now, he's asking that they check into whether they can revoke their license, which the networks do not. The networks don't have a license. He should be informed of that. And if they're doing that, if they're doing that, why are you even following him like this? Just report him when he does something worthwhile, which would be about once a week. And he'll go nuts if you don't react to him. But he does it every morning. Joe Scarborough's reading the latest Donald Trump tweets. Don't pay attention to him. Let him. If he doesn't like you, you know, if you meet up with a woman and it turns out she doesn't like you, don't keep pursuing trying to date her. Okay?
Yep, it's the way it should be. I agree. So wasn't Ronan Farrow's letter, so the letter we were discussing the other day about you believed it and I was thinking that it's more PR, wasn't that a letter from NBC?
Well, their explanation for why Ronan Farrow's story didn't run, they said
that NBC?
They sent a memo out to their people saying that the reason why they didn't run the story at that point, it wasn't that they weren't going to run it, but at that point, is that Ronan Farrow had no sources. He had no sources that he could name. okay, and that that the wisest people at NBC looking over this material said, we can't do this yet, it's not ready.
Right. So the letter came, so he went somewhere else and he got the story done. So that letter came out saying exactly what you said.
Yeah.
But isn't the Apprentice on NBC?
What does that have to do with it?
Well, because if the president of the United States saying, I want to yank your license, what is it that you're going to say to come out to a Roman Farrow? Is just say, the story wasn't there, it wasn't ripe, it wasn't ready.
Well, what does
wash your hands,
have
cover
to
your
do?
legal butt,
What does that have to
and
do
just
with,
wash your hands of it. And
what does that have to do with The Apprentice?
Same company.
No.
NBC did not want to piss off the president anymore and get on his line.
Well, wait a minute.
That's why they did the legal
Ronan
rebut.
Farrow's stories weren't about the president; they were about Harvey Weinstein.
Right, but the people running all of it is the same group.
All they wanted to do was, Weinstein's lawyers were constantly saber rattling at NBC, so NBC wanted to make sure that they had all the facts before they ran the story. Andy Lack said that we weren't considering not running the story because of the threatened legal action by the Trump people, by the Weinstein people. But we wanted more facts so that in case we did get sued, we could say, hey, we did our due diligence, we have the sources, we can name the sources, on and on and on. But Ronan Farrow didn't have any of that. When he went to the New Yorker, he then did more research, realizing he didn't have the sources he could name, and found some sources he could name. Then the New Yorker let him run the story.
Well, I'm saying that letter sounds like CLYB to me, which is cover your legal butt.
Well, I think you've been accused, so you're going to say what you felt went on. And now it's become a he said, she said story.
Right, and so we're never going to get to the end of this, because you're right.
Because they told Ronan Farrow, hey, if you want to go somewhere else and do this story, be our guest. And Ronan Farrow, because he supposedly asked, and Ronan Farrow says, I never asked, they just told me they wouldn't do the story, so I took it somewhere else.
Well, now, you said that he can't pull NBC's license? What?
NBC doesn't have a license.
You don't have to have a license?
The only licenses they ever had were the ownership of radio and television stations, and if it's my thinking, there are only a few television stations they own and a few radio stations I don't think they own radio stations anymore. I think they just own television stations. Okay. So he could try to pull those licenses, but he said pull the license of NBC, as a network. You can't do that. They don't have a license. They've never had a license. They don't use four-letter words on NBC because they don't want to get their affiliates in trouble. Because their affiliates, when the breast got exposed with Janet Jackson, the people who got fined were all the individual TV stations, not the network.
Oh, that had to hurt.
Yeah, Patrick, quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Trump not knowing that is the same as Trump saying that John McCain left North Korea early, not realizing he spent 5 fucking years there.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, I got to go. But you know something? We only had 4 people tonight. Scott left us in a huff, or a minute and a huff. And but we love you, Scott. If you're listening, please come back.
Call into Jack's show.
He'll call into Jack's show. But 3 people, and it's if I had the same 3 people every night, it'd be a great show. I thank you very much, Renee. I thank you, Patrick, and I thank you very much, Jeff. And I think right now is about the appropriate time for all of you to do a big wave goodbye. There they are, folks. Goodbye. Okay. Anyway, that's it. That's our citizens panel for tonight. Not huge, but mighty. And I think that's the important part of all of this. It's a good, but anyway, Jack Bishop is next. He's here with the intersection, followed probably with more people calling him tonight than called me. Tomorrow night at 1 o'clock, it's Connections. They're back on live again, not live, but with a new show tonight. And then we'll be back again after Damian Chaplin holds down the exchange at 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow night. At 10 o'clock, same time, same station in life, In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.